Good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Saturday, happy Saturday, happy Saturday. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Christina.
And welcome to
Sister Chat Time.
Sister Chat Time. Welcome. We just so grateful and thankful to be here in the land of the living one more time. And you should be too, because guess what? Somebody didn't wake up this morning. And so this is a reason to give God the highest praise. Yes, the highest praise. Yes, we just so grateful and so thankful. And so, Christina, before we get started, let's like and share our page for the people. Like and share our page. And so, God is just so good. He is good. That's how I love to describe him. He is good. I told my bishop that the other day when he was preaching. I was like, Bishop, this message is good.
Hi, Campbell soup.
Good. And so, Christina, I wanted to ask you first, how was your week?
My week was actually good, and with the exception of all this sinus stuff going on. But other than that, like, I had a good week. It was a productive week. I took care of a lot of stuff, so it was a good week for me. And how about you? How was your week?
You know what? I think I had a good week. I think I did. I'm still here, so yeah, I had a great week. Thank you for asking. Thank you.
That's good. No problem.
Yes. And so let me turn this music off so we can get started. And so today on Sister Chat, we are talking about the power of love. The power of love. And I pulled up this scripture, and I need my glasses.
You and them glasses.
And it's 2 Timothy 1:7, and it reads, "For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of a sound mind." For God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and love and of a sound mind. And the one thing that I thought about was, sometimes we look at love where we only can love the opposite sex. No, we can love on our sisters. We can love on our sisters because that's what God he desires for us to love on each other. I was reading earlier where it says here, love gives us a sense of belonging and connection. Love reduces stress and improves mental health. Love helps us cope with life's challenges. Love boosts our immune system and overall health. Love enhances our self-esteem and confidence. And it made me think that especially with enhancing, I look at it, like as sisters, we're supposed to be in a place of, if you're going through, Christine, now I'm supposed to be that sister to you that's going to give you that encouraging word. It's not supposed to be a word to tear you down, but to lift you up. You know what I mean? And so
right.
I am that person. I love to encourage. I love to lift people up. I want to give that encouraging word. But also, some people don't realize that love is also giving you truth. And some people don't like truth. So what do you think about that?
As far as somebody not liking truth?
Let's go with that. Let's go with that today. What do you think about people when you giving them truth, but they're not receiving it, not realizing you only giving it to them in love?
Sometimes people are, what I've experienced is that people are afraid to face themselves. So to have someone speaking truth to them, or letting them know something maybe about themselves, some people, it's hard for them to accept that, because if you can't accept what you are or who you are, like, we're not perfect people, and I understand that, but at the same time, you should take it as love, especially if somebody's coming to you like, listen, maybe it can be like your attitude, or maybe the way you respond to things, like, and you're letting them know, like, I just feel like
It's freezing up right now. And so while she's trying to figure out why she's freezing up, so ladies that are watching, what do you think about, you were freezing up? I heard nothing you said.
oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I was just saying that some people are not, like, some people don't want to face what's wrong with them inside themselves. So it's like, for somebody to maybe point out a certain thing about you, or tell you something that maybe you're not ready to receive. But I'm just saying, that this person loves you and actually cares for you, then you shouldn't, take it. Don't be angered by it. Like, sometimes we have to self-reflect and be like, do I do that thing, or do I always have an attitude? Do I respond to things in a negative way? You gotta ask yourself that kind of stuff sometimes. Because, like I said, we're not perfect people, but it should be nothing wrong with somebody, addressing something out of love to you. That's why I said some people are not ready to face what's going on inside of them. You got to be truthful with yourself in order to be honest with other people.
I love how Oprah Winfrey and her friend, I forgot her friend name that fast.
Gail.
Gail, I love their relationship, and
Right.
I remember when Gail did something different to her hair. Well, her hair was different, but Oprah didn't know. And she was like, who did your hair and your makeup today? And she said, I did. And Oprah looked at her and said, oh. And she said, you don't like it? And she said, no. No. And they both laughed, and so I wish that we as women, as sisters, can be that way, where we can be open and we can be honest, and it's not to hurt you. I had a friend, many years ago, when I had some extra weight on me, and I will always wear a jacket because I never wanted to show my arms and my back.
Right.
And I just thought I was just so fat. And she would snatch it off me. She would take my jacket off me. And I was like, oh my God. I really love how she was so petite. And I really loved how she loved on me.
Right.
Have you ever had that friend who loved on you?
Yeah, I was my best friend. She loved, I don't know. She always be like, girl, you have the craziest personality and this and that. But she always loved on me, like, always. She always have. And that's something I truly appreciate. Like, we can be honest with each other, and it's no friction. It's just like, listen, girl, you need to do this, or you need to stop thinking like that, or I just appreciate the honesty. I love it.
So, ladies, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the power of love? Have you ever had a friend, a sister who told you the truth and you didn't like it? And if so, how did you handle it? How did you respond to this person telling you that, telling you the truth? And I believe that God, he desires for us to be open and honest with each other. He desires for us to, tell each other, the truth. And I never understood what people used to say. Give it to him and give it to him in love. If I'm telling you, I am giving it to you in love. I am giving it to you in love. I'm not being mean about it, but some people just can't handle truth. And so we're not held responsible for people when they don't want to be receptive to truth. And so that's just like when we're going through trials and tribulations, when we're going through storms, and let's just say you had a friend who someone that you're close to may have had death in the family, and I believe that it's important to be there with that person to help them get through. Sometimes like one of my friends, I'll never forget, her mom passed. And I said, I know how you feel. And she said, no, you don't, because your mother's still alive. And you know what? She was absolutely right. Sometimes I believe that we say things to just to say them, or we trying to make that person feel good because they're going through.
Right.
It's like we trying to soothe them. But sometimes it's just best to be quiet. Or let's just say, we some of us, we go through a breakup, and sometimes it's like, one thing I always say, people always say, oh, you know what, it's okay, someone else better coming along. But what about in that moment, right there in that moment when I'm going through? How am I supposed to get through when you're not even helping me feel, or you're not assisting me with what I'm going through? What do you think about that, Christina?
So being honest, I went through a terrible breakup, and I've had like people saying to me the same thing, like, oh, there's other guys out there, you'll find somebody because, you're a kind person and you this and you that. But in the moment, that's not what you're thinking about. You're thinking about that pain you're in, the time you've invested, all that. You have all these emotions going on and everything. And for somebody to, I'd rather you be like, we're going to get through this together. We're going to get through this together. We're going to, find ways to make you feel better, or pray with me, pray for me, do things like that. But, like I said, that's easier said than done, and people, like you said, sometimes we try to say things to just make a person feel better. And when for real, you should be being honest with that person. Like, listen, it's gonna be some tough days. It's gonna be you're gonna have good and bad days. But like I said, having somebody you can go through that can go through these things with you, giving you honest advice, and like I said, most of all, prayer. Like, let's take it to God. Like that, those are the type of sisters I want. Like, let's take it to God. I'm gonna sit right here with you in your mess. And we gonna let God help us figure this out, but it is you can empathize with people, like, wow, if that was me, I would be hurt, or whatever. But people handle things different. So sometimes, like you said, it's just best to shut your mouth, just be quiet. Sometimes a person just needs you to hear them. They don't need your advice or anything.
Good morning, Crystal Winslow. Good morning. So Tamika Williams, she said, when a friend tells you the truth and you don't like it, it usually hits you because some part of you already knew it, but your heart wasn't ready to receive it. And that's so true. That is so true. And so, someone here, an unknown person, says sometimes being with your best friend is all the therapy you need. It's all the therapy you need. And that is so true, and that's the reason why it's important to connect with the right person, having that power of love, when you know what you know, when you have that sister who can really say, hey, you know what, I love you, you know, I don't want to see you go through, you know, I just want to be there for you, or what can I do? What can I do to help you to get through, you know, any storm? Oh, hey, you looking for a job? Oh, so they hiring, let me give you this information, you know. And so and then what about when you have that friend, that sister that does something to hurt you? What do? You know, I believe that God wants us to talk about it. You know, we don't have to talk about it in that moment, because let me say for me, I don't like to talk about things in that moment, because I know I can go to 100. And it's just like, you know, and it really depends on the situation, but I try to calm down. But I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about it, you know, because I love you. I love you that just that much, where I want to see us win. I want to see us win together. But if there's something that we need to discuss, I'm going to discuss it. And so, what do you think about that, Christina? You know, are you that person where you want to talk about, you know, if someone does your friend, your sister who's close to you, if she does something to hurt you, how do you handle the situation? Or if it's never happened to you, how would you handle it?
So if it was something that was like heated in that moment, sometimes yes, I can talk about it in that moment, but the only way I would be able to do that for myself is if the person is willing to listen, not just to, I'm saying listen to, you know, not just respond, but you're listening to me, you know. And I can talk to my sister in that moment, but if it's like not getting nowhere, then yes, I need to calm down. I need to wait for you to calm down, and then we can come back together, you know, and discuss whatever we need to discuss. But I've also had where a friend of mine, like she wasn't trying to hear nothing I had to say. It was just like whatever she said was right, you know, and everything I was saying was wrong. So, you know, I ended it, like ended the conversation and everything. And then along the way, I realized, like, you know, she truly wasn't my friend, my sister for real, because if it's only going to be your way and everything you say is right, and you know everything I'm saying is wrong, then like we're not going to get nowhere. There's no room for even growth, because you're not willing to hear what the other person has to say. So sometimes, like how it's said, like some battles are just not yours, and sometimes you got to let it be right there. Just let it die right there.
Morning, Teresita. She says sometimes it's hard to hear the truth from a friend, even though you know they aren't telling you anything that you didn't already know. It's harder to hear. It's harder to hear and accept at the moment, but you later can go back and acknowledge, accept, and thank them. Ask them for help in working through the issue. You know what, Teresita, you are so right. That is so true. Let me tell you, I had a friend, and she told me the truth, and this was many years ago. And I got mad with her, and I didn't speak to her for months. And at the end of our conversation, she said, "I love you," but I didn't want to hear that. You know, I was going through at that moment. I wanted her to be on my side, you know. And so, you know, I eventually called her back, and she was like, "Girl, I knew you was mad at me," you know. And to this day, you know, I have grown, I've matured, where when she's telling me the truth, you know, I can have that flesh burn moment. That flesh burn moment is just a moment. It's just a moment. But, you know, I come back and, you know, and vice versa. You know, sometimes she may not like, you know, for me to tell her the truth, but, you know, it's okay. You know, at the end of the day, we still have to love each other. God still wants us to love, you know, the power of love. Tamika say, if they dismiss your feelings or keep doing it, then it's time to create distance. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna be, and you know what, Tamika, one thing I'm working on, you know, something that God showed me. God showed me that you never break up with your friends. He told me don't break up with my friends, and he said to me, the right ones will stay and the wrong ones will leave. And so, you know, I've learned, you know, I remember I stayed in situations with people and with, you know, my what people that I consider my friends. And one thing that God showed me was when they walked away, you know, when they did things to try to hurt me, and I didn't understand it. But God, He allowed me to know they were not your friends. And deep down inside, Teresita, you know, you're absolutely right, you know, about knowing the truth. And I knew the truth about a lot of things, you know, but it was just me loving on people. And so what happens, ladies, when you know that like Tamika said, you put distance, but what happens when you know that this person is not for me? You know, do you still try to help her? You know, what do you do? Give us some feedback. What would you do, Christina, when you know that you have this for you're friends with this person, but you starting to see, hey, they're not really my friend. You know, how do you approach the situation?
I mean, for me, like I've had situations like that where, you know, I mean, years I've been friends with a person, and it was like, you know, I'm just saying, like, it's not going anywhere, you know, and I had to actually go to the person and like explain to them as to why I didn't want to be their friend anymore, you know, because I mean, yes, we should love on people and everything, but that doesn't mean that you have to tolerate somebody hurting you like over and over and over again. And I think that's where we get confused at. Like, yes, you can love on people and everything. And just because I don't want to be around you or deal with you anymore doesn't mean that I don't love you. It just means I respect myself more and I love myself more to walk away, you know, and sometimes that can be hard, especially if you've been friends with people for years and you like, wow, like it just ended just like that, you know, but like I said, love yourself more, have more respect for yourself, and you can still love that person. Just love them from a distance. There's no hate or anything. At least not from me. You know, I'm going to still love you. I would not wish bad on you or hoping that, you know, something terrible happens to you or anything, because people do have done that to me. Like I've gotten phone calls where it's like, oh, I hope your life this goes this way and that way. I hope this, and I mean, people can get ugly with it, especially our sisters. They can get very ugly, but I choose not to participate. So, and it took me a long time to get to that point, because I used to be the person who want to go back and forth. Oh, I'll argue you down, but it's like you're doing all of that just for nothing to get resolved. So, you know, sometimes the best thing for you to do is to be like, you know what, I can't do this anymore, you know, and it still will hurt. Even if you're in, whether you end the friendship or they end it, either way, it's still going to be painful, but sometimes it's necessary.
Teresita, she said it is important for us as women to learn to hear each other out. You may get some good information or not. And Tamika says, when you know someone isn't really your friend, you just stop showing up the same way. You don't keep pouring your energy into someone who's proven they don't have a care. Being there for them at that point usually costs you more than it gives. And you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You know, Teresita, she also says sometimes you have to take a break and reflect. That is so true. That
Yeah.
is so true. And Tamika says, you can still be kind and civil, but just don't be vulnerable. She said, Christina, I used to do that too. You know, I want to touch on what Teresita said, how sometimes you have to take a break and reflect. You know, and so um, what does that look like to you, Christina, when you're taking a break to reflect on someone who's who really doesn't have your back, and you know it. You know how do you take a break from that?
So for me, it's been times that I did sit back and reflect, not just on the other person, but even on my with myself. Like, did I say something or come across as a certain way that could have offended them? Because sometimes it's not even just about them. Sometimes the way we respond, the way we show up, the way we act, our attitude, you got to think about that as well. Like, it's not just all the time about the other person. So when I have reflected, sometimes, yes, I've been like, well, that I shouldn't have said it that way, or that was kind of harsh, and so I would have to reflect. But at the same time, I do have, I apologize to people. Like, when I hurt somebody, or I know that I hurt somebody, like, I will apologize to them, because I'm not exempt from that. It's like, even when we taking these issues to our sisters, or like, just reflecting on it or whatever, like, somewhere in that little equation, you gonna find something that you didn't do right yourself, but and that doesn't make either one of you guys a bad person. It's just that when you take time to reflect, you can show up better the next time for maybe the next friend, or whatever. So, but reflection is definitely a must needed thing to do.
Morning, Michelle. This lady, Mandy Hale, she says two things you would never have to chase: true friends and true love. And then the unknown person says, because of you, I laugh a little harder, cry a little less, and smile a lot more.
Oh.
Yes, I like that. I like that. Because of you, I laugh a little harder, cry a little less, and smile a lot more. Ladies, tell me, do you have that friend that, or that sister that that because of them, you make them laugh, or they make you laugh, you cry a little harder, you smile a lot more, I remember, I had one of those friends where it was just like when we went out, a Friday or Saturday night, we the next day we woke up. Well, I didn't say we woke up, but at some point that day, we just got on the phone and we talked about everything that happened, and we just hee ha ha. We had such a good time, and just couldn't wait to do that again. Like, that was really my friend. That was my sister, and I that's my prayer, is that we as women, we can come together to make each other laugh, to be there when each other cry, and just being there, showing that love, And so, ladies, I want you to tell me, what kind of friend are you, and how do you show up for your sister? How do you show up for your friend? I want you to share that. Tamika, she said, first thing to do is to stop reaching. This creates the space you need to breathe and think clearly. I will pull back without announcing it. No explanations. So, do you think we should pull back without, and basically that's going ghost, Tamika. You're going ghost. You're going ghost on people. I don't think we should go ghost on our friends. If we consider them my friends, I don't think we should go ghost on them. What I believe that we should do is, yes, like Teresita said, take a break and reflect, and then come back and talk about it. So, what do you think? Do you think basically what Tamika is saying, she going ghost on somebody? What do you think, Christina? Would you go ghost on someone?
I have ghosted somebody. I was like, look, I'm not explaining nothing. Like, it is what it is, and it's like, you go ahead and sit with that. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've ghosted plenty of people. I'm
Oh,
sorry, y'all. Okay, but
oh man, y'all
I'm
ghosting
not proud.
people.
I'm not proud of it, but I've done it.
Yes. Now, Tamika, she said it depends on the situation, and that's true. It really, it really depends. I mean, I remember I had a friend, and it was just like, I didn't understand why she didn't trust me as her friend. I'm not saying this because it's me. I'm saying it because it's true. I'm a good friend. I know how to be a friend. I'm I'm such a good friend that um when you hurt, I hurt for real. That's the kind of friend I am. I'm that friend that I love to give, and I'm not saying that I haven't had friends who were good to me, but I'm saying I'm that friend. And it's not to pat myself on the back, but I'm just a good friend because I want someone to be a good friend to me. But I had this friend, and it was just like people would always tell her things about me that wasn't true. And that kind of bothered me. And so it got to the point, where, it was like all the time, she just kept coming at me. And it just got to the point where I just said, you believe what you want to believe. I can't make you believe me. And you have to understand that sometimes people don't want you being friends with people. And so it wasn't that I ghosted her, but it was just like I just stopped calling. She stopped calling me. We just stopped. We just stopped being friends. And I never want to be in a place of not being someone's friend, but I do know that God, first of all, He is the one in control, and God knows who's for us and who's not. A lot of times we look at men, meaning in relationships, we believe that God is always showing us something about them, which He does, but it's also the women in our lives, and it's not that they're bad people. We're just not supposed to be connected. We're not supposed to be connected, and it's okay. I still want good to happen with my sisters because they're still my sisters. I want good things to happen. I don't want bad things to happen. Like when you were saying this person said they, wished all these bad things on you. Why do you want all these bad things to happen to me? We're supposed to be in a place of, I'm gonna tell you, I was sharing with Teresita, how many years ago the enemy had my mind. I was in sin. I was in sin. And I was doing things that I know God did not want me to do. And the enemy bombarded my mind so bad that he was even planning in my head to commit suicide. And I was, and I remember I had, I was telling my son all these things. I think he was like 10 years old. I was telling him, always do good in life, just all the things that I wanted to see happen. And I remember I sent him to my mom's. I laid on the floor, had a bottle of pills in my Bible, and God knocked me out. I woke up the next morning, and I'm gonna tell you, the one thing Teresita said to me was, you had to meet me. She was like, you had to meet me. And when I say, I don't know if I told you, Teresita, but that really touched my heart, for her to say that to me, because I shared that with people before, but it was never, that response. And that made me feel so good. You know what I mean? And so I just thank God for her letting me know, that was love. I have to say it like that. She loved on me, and I wish that the women, we can love on each other, like truly love on each other the way that God wants us to love on each other. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to piggyback on what you said about because one time before, like I was feeling like, like I don't have no real friends. I don't, all this kind of stuff. And I was feeling so alone by myself. And I would never forget when I actually was mad at God because I tried to take my life, and it was like, I mean, I slit my wrists and everything, both sides. And I was mad God let me live. I'm like, you let me be around these crazy people and all this stuff. I'm like, don't nobody care about me. I don't have no real friends. And I was actually mad at God that He allowed me to still live. Like, you know how crazy that is? But I'm just like, now
I'm glad it didn't work.
Okay, like me too. I'm definitely happy it didn't work. But I just felt like, I didn't have nobody on my side. I couldn't go to nobody, talk to no, female friends of mine, nothing. I just felt so low. I think that was like one of my rock bottoms. I was just like, oh my God. And as I got in therapy and everything, I'm just like, man, I will never do that again. I don't want any sister that's on this sister chat right now. I would never, ever want to get to that point where you feel like you have to take your life over friends or anybody for that matter. But because you don't have friends or you feeling like people betrayed you, I would never want that to happen. But I just had to share that because I was mad at God for real.
Yes, well, I thank God that He allowed both of us to live and not die. Yes, 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 because He knew that we needed to be here today.
Right.
Yes. So Tamika, she says I will show up for a true friend indeed. I check on my friends without having an agenda. We celebrate our blessings without jealousy. I'm the friend that don't disappear when things get heavy. I make my friends feel better after being around me. It's not draining, drama, or no confusion. And that's a beautiful thing. That's really good. I've been listening to, this song, and oh my goodness, I think I sent it to you, Christina. And in that song, the lady, she talks about how when she was pouring into others, no one asked if they can pour into her. And that was me. Like, I was pouring, but I thank God for true friendship. When people will just check on me and say, "Hey, how you doing? Are you okay?" Because that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to check in on our sisters. You have people that and Tamika, she can testify to this. You have them sisters that get mad, at you, and some of us don't handle it in a great way. And Tamika, she knows that I handle it in a great way. I do now because of the love that God has given me. I can handle when someone's upset with me. I'm going to go to God, and I'm going to ask God, how should I handle it? Then I'm going to go to that person. I'm going to talk to them, and the way that God allows me to approach situations, I'm going to be in a place of loving on her, on loving on my sister. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to show love. Tamara, good morning, Tamara. She said, live and not die. Amen. Good morning, Taria. Taria, she says, love you guys for sharing. It's helping me through my grief. Yeah, Taria, that's my niece, y'all. She lost her husband close to a month after getting married. And so I'm glad this is helping. And this is then that, and you know what, this is so true. When a person is going through, a lot of times we wait for some of us, we always say, well, call me if you need me. No, how about you just pick up the phone, or you just send a text and like, hey, say, I'm thinking of you, I'm praying for you. Right. What can I do to help you get through this process? One thing God told me, when I was doing eulogies for people, to let them know that death is hard, but what's even harder is learning to live without that person. And the thing is, we don't always know what to say when people going through, and so we have to learn to just be there, to make sure that they're getting through this. And so, ladies, I want to ask you, how do you help your sisters? How do you help your friends get through the grieving process? Because as my bishop says, grief is not brief. You know, some people dare say, "Oh, you're only allowed to grieve 3 years." Who said that? Who said that? And we're supposed to make sure that we are allowing people to know that we're allowing them to know that I'm here for you, that I'm here for you. Okay, so ladies, share, how do you help people get through their grieving process? You know, grief is not just when a person die. You know, you can grieve, you know, a loved one or a friendship. You know, so how do we help people? How do we supposed to help people get through? Christina.
Most of the time, like I pray for people a lot. So that's one of my biggest things. I always try to start with that, and then, I might ask my friend, like, I had one friend who went through a hard time with like losing her dad, and she would call me on video, everything, and I just would show up even if I didn't have anything to say. Just me being on a video call with her, or she would pick up the phone and call me. Sometimes I would just be the listener. I wouldn't give any type of advice, because you can't tell people how to grieve or when they're supposed to be over. That's not for you to decide. People deal with things in different ways, where you may be strong, maybe that person don't feel as strong as you, so you got to let people do what's best for them, like. But I just usually would just show up and know in those ways, like, even if I just got to listen to you, or you may want to come to my house and it's like I just need to talk, and every situation doesn't call for advice or input. Sometimes just sit and be quiet. That's how I show up, but mostly with prayer. I love praying. I usually love praying, but I love praying now. So that's what I always do for my friends. Like
Tamika said, sorry for your loss, sending her condolences. Um, Yamika, she said, good morning, Yamika. She says, good morning. Being there is everything. I give hugs, prayers, meals, and let them talk when they're ready. Yes, and that's true. That's so true.
Yeah.
Teresita, she says, I have experienced so much family betrayal in my lifetime that I have embraced and surrounded my friends who have become lifetime family for a number of years. Some of these folks have been my friends from childhood, and we don't talk every day. But when we do talk, it's like we pick back up where we left off. That is so true. That is so true. One thing I believe that, God, He always surround us with people that we don't even expect to come through for us. And so, what happens when, as Teresita said, she went through so much, with her family, that now God has given her a family, of friends, sisters who loves on her. So ladies, how do you deal with, when you have that family member, and they do things to hurt you? Of course, we know that, we supposed to, walk in forgiveness, because that's a power of love. When we don't forgive, what happens? We make, when we don't forgive, of course, we know the Bible says that God doesn't forgive us, but it eats at us, it eats at us. And so I went through the same thing with the hurt, with family members, but I had to ask God to help me to forgive, because I didn't know how. And, God had to help me forgive these people, and forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. And, so ladies, have you been hurt by people and you thought that you could not forgive them? And, you really needed God to help you get through that. How did you deal with that? Good morning, Tanya Jules. Tanya said, I make sure that I'm there for that person. I keep them in prayer. I text them positive affirmations. I also let them know I'm here for them. I call and just listen, allowing them to cry, yell, or just be silent. And you're absolutely right. My husband is listening, y'all. He said you are absolutely right. Sometimes we just need to be careful and listen, and that's true. And in the beginning, when we started Sisters Helping Sisters, the one thing I always say was to inhale, exhale, and just scream. And Tanya Jewel, you are so right. Sometimes you just have to allow a person to just yell and scream to get it out, and just be there to listen. Just to be there. And I like this person. They said here, friendship. I don't even know who this is. I'm sorry. Friends show their love in times of trouble, not in happiness. And that's when you know that you really have a friend, when they showing up in times of trouble. Because we always can be there for people when it's a happy time. But what about when it's that not so happy time? Can you really show up? Crystal Winslow, she said praying is very important. Definitely need to take it to God first. Good issues and bad. And oh my goodness, you are so right, Crystal, because I'm telling you, the battlefield is in the mind, and we have to be in a place of making sure that we not just coming to people operating out of our flesh. And so I remember a situation that happened a couple of months ago, and this man, he was in the Walmart. He said some mean things to me, and all of a sudden I responded back in the mean way, and I said, God, I'm sorry, I didn't pass that test. I didn't pass. And so one thing I have to do, I have to learn. I have to continue to make sure that I'm praying first, and or being quiet. As the Bible say, be quick to listen and slow to hear. And if I was quick to listen, I would have heard the Lord say, don't respond. But I didn't. Yamika said, yes, I had to learn the power of surrendering. I give God my hurts. Yes. I'm telling you, we have to surrender. And that's the power of love too. Loving God enough to surrender, to give God our hurt, because that wasn't me back in the day. I'm gonna call you up and be like, hey, but that's not how God wants us to handle things. Yes, that's what our flesh want to do. Yes. Sometimes we want to tell people off. Yes, we want people to hurt like we hurt. But giving it to the Lord really, really helps. Giving it to the Lord. Tamika, she said, first, I let myself name the hurt without minimizing it. I separate who they are from what access they have to me. I wouldn't give them full emotional access. Boundaries are not punishment, but just protection. That's true. One thing I always say, I always try to be this strong person. I don't want people to see me cry. I don't want people to know, I always want to show up like I'm Supergirl. But really, I'm a big crybaby. and it's like I will allow things to build up, but then and Coach Renee, she said this to me, girl, you gotta deal with your feelings. And then I heard my bishop preach about it. We gotta stop acting. We really have to stop pretending like our feelings doesn't matter, because they do. And it's okay to say, Yamika, you hurt my feelings. Or I wouldn't say you hurt my feelings. I would just say, Yamika, what you said something I didn't like, and I will address it with Yamika, and the thing about it is that, sometimes, we be holding on to stuff, we be holding on to things, and, truth be told, my facial expression is going to tell you I'm upset with you. And we may say, a person may say, "What's wrong?" And you be like, "Nothing." Tell them the truth. Be honest. When you say something that I didn't like, oh, well, what did I say? And don't be and ladies, don't be so quick to say, "Oh, I didn't hurt you." You can tell somebody
Right.
what you said. That didn't hurt. I was
Tracy,
that
if
person.
I can just if I could just chime in on that. I remember like with my mom, right? So I used to always be scared. Like if my mother say something that hurt my feelings, I would just like shake it off. I'm like, well, I'm not supposed to tell my mother that, she hurt me or she said something that I didn't like. And so now I'm happy to say that we have gotten to a point where it's like if something was said or done that we both can be like, I'm sorry that I hurt your feelings or I didn't mean it that way, and things like that. But I used to truly be afraid to tell my mom like when she hurt me or said something that like just made me cry. I would wait till I get home and then I would cry. I'm just like, oh my gosh, she hurt my feelings. Instead of saying something, but now her and I, we both got to a place where we can be honest with each other. Like, I didn't like that you said that. And it doesn't happen often, but when it does, we are definitely in a better space. And I even got myself out of the habit of telling people like, oh no, it's fine, when it really is not fine. I don't know where we get that from because a lot of people do that, not just sisters, just in general. Like, we don't have to be strong all the time. I have to tell myself that. And people think I'm so tough. Like, they be like, girl, you just be getting through this and getting through that. I'm like, do you know how many breakdowns I've had? How many times I've cried? How many times I've just like screamed in my house?
And you know what? And we're supposed to be open and we're supposed to be honest, because and then at the end of the day, we still have to love each other, just
Yeah.
take it in, as I say, have that flesh burn moment, but come back and let's still love on each other. Crystal, she said, I agree with you on that, Tracy. Yumika, she said, yes, I learned to call out what offends me respectfully. I had a tenant yelling at me and I spoke up and said, I want to hear you, can't over your yelling at me. He apologized for his tone and we resolved the issue peacefully. Yes. And that is so true. We're not supposed to be in a place of, screaming and yelling and going off. And that's the reason why I know when I have an issue with someone, I'm going to wait to talk to them about it because I want to make sure that I'm not coming in a fleshly manner. I want to make sure that I'm still not hurt or whatever I'm feeling at that moment so that we can have a good conversation so that we can still love on each other at the end of the day. And so, ladies, I wanted to ask you if you had to leave a word with your sisters on walking through the power of love, what would you leave with them? What would you leave with them? Someone said, an unknown person said, the power of love within friendship lies in its ability to provide unwavering support, shared joy, and deep understanding, acting as a cement that holds love and life together. I like that. I like that. And so, Christina, if you had to leave the ladies with a word with the power of love, what would you leave them with today?
I would leave always, first and foremost, walk in love always. Even when it's not what you want to do, but it's the right thing to do. So always lead in love, walk with love, respond in love with love. Um and just understand that we're all different. We're all different. But when you lead in love and you're holding even yourself accountable, the other person accountable, let it all be in love, never in anger or anything. And always, like I said, pray, take it to God, get on them knees, ladies, okay? But Yeah, that's what I would leave with the ladies. Just always walk in love and lead in love.
I like that. I believe that God, he definitely desires for us to walk in love. We have to,
Yes.
even I like let me go back. I'm sorry. When they talk about how love is patient and love is kind. And sometimes we're not really patient with people, but we have to learn how to be patient with people. It also says it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not
Yes.
self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. And that's the one thing I, hope and pray that we will stop allowing, wrongs to keep us from being there for our sisters, being there. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects, always trusts, and hopes, and always perseveres. Love never fails. And now these three remains: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love, and we have to hold on to that. Tamika, she said, most of all, let love be strong. Yes, yes. You know, um, we have to have a strong bond. We have to allow, love to override our anger, more than anything. And that's when you can have that strong relationship. You have that strong bond with people, And so that's my prayer, that we can be strong together, be loving, like you say, walk in love. This is it's daily. You got to do this daily. It's got to be a
Yep.
daily thing that you do, to walk in love. And so ladies, we thank you for coming on, listening. Listen, if you have a topic that you want us to talk about, let me know. If you desire to come on, if you would love to be a guest to share your testimony or whatever the Lord lay on your heart to do, hey, let me know, because we are trying to navigate this walk of life as sisters, as Christians, as believers together. Okay. And so before we go, I wanted to share with you ladies. I thought I was going to be able to have my flyer. But what is it? June 13th. We're having a praise brunch. Okay. A praise brunch. And the theme is I survived. Okay. This tickets are $45. Listen, ladies, be in the place. Be in the place. When I say that God has some great women coming forth, great women of God coming forth, this is not something that you will want to miss. Okay. So Sisters Help Sisters are presenting their second annual praise brunch. Okay. $45. Get your ticket. Okay. Get your ticket. And if you can't make it, or if you don't want to come, buy somebody else a ticket. Okay. June 13th at 10 o'clock. And I'll have more information later. Okay. Crystal Winslow, she said, love is a powerful word. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yumika, she said she loved this. Thank you, Tamika. Yumika, we love you, Yumika. Really do. Yumika's gonna come on soon too. I gotta call you, Yumika. When I say powerful woman of God, when I say her testimony moved me, ladies. When Yumika comes on here, Reverend, no other than Reverend Yumika. Y'all, y'all gonna be in for a treat. When I say good, good. Yes. So, ladies, Christina, first, thank you for coming on, being my co-host today. I love you. I appreciate you. You're always welcome to come on. And
yeah,
that tuned in, who gave us some feedback. Listen, I just thank you so much. I thank you so much, for coming in and sharing, and don't forget to like and share our page, with your friends. And ladies, don't forget to keep my niece Taria in prayer, as she prepare, within the next few weeks to lay her husband to rest. Okay. And anybody else that's out there going through, I just want you to know that, God loves you. We love you, and we're going to get through this together. Thank you, Tanya. She said, great sister chat. Tamika said, very inspiring. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much. I want you to have a great week. I want you to have a great weekend. Okay. And continue remembering that there is power in love. Okay. And we can get through this together, ladies. Okay. Once again, thank you, Christina. Remember, ladies, that it's always better for us to come together because sisters help sisters. Sisters help sisters.
One faith at a time.
It's okay.
Okay.
Y'all have a great weekend. We love you. We love you. Go to church tomorrow and not online.
Look at you.
Call me. I'll give you the address to my church. Okay? Love you.